All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our final session for today. It's been such a wonderful conference, and I'm so pleased that you're all here and sharing your stories. I would just like to go over some more Zoom etiquette things here. So we're going to have questions again in the chat, and then raise your hand, use that at the end. We'll get a queue going for people to share. But for now, we're going to go ahead and let the moderator, Megan Mcmanus, and our panelists speak and share their stories. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce Megan. Megan is completing her master's degree in the Urban Food Systems program at K-State in Olathe. She's the program coordinator for Growing Growers in Kansas City and runs the apprenticeship program and coordinates workshops and events there. She assists in field research trials at the K-State Olathe Horticulture Center, working with the Beginning Farmer Wholesale Project on development of the Demystifying the Wholesale Market Manual, which is designed for growers to learn more about selling to wholesale markets in the Kansas City region. Her research interests include small farm viability, local and regional food systems, and sustainable agriculture and community-based models. Megan, thank you for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Right, great. Thank you, Caitlin. So as she said, my name is Megan, and I'm just so honored to be able to moderate this session. As she said, I work with Growing Growers Kansas City, and we work with beginning farmers. We provide an apprenticeship program, a series of workshops, and we host a listserv. And then we also host the Beginning Farmer Wholesale Project, which has several different resources, which you can see here, but the end goal is to help connect beginning farmers to wholesale buyers, and that includes institutions and schools. And you can visit these resources at growinggrowers.org. And so that brings us to our amazing grower panelists, which I'm sure you can all agree that we're just so excited to hear from them. They each bring to the table a unique set of experiences, perspectives, and knowledge that we can listen to and learn from. So we have with us today Stephanie Nesset, owner and farmer of Bella Vista Farm, Bernadette Mills, owner and operator of Luna Farm and Ranch. And I hope that Bill Coe, director, CEO of Green Acres Urban Farm and Research Project, can join us as well.
I'm here.
Oh, yay. Okay, great. Awesome. Well, he's with us as well. And so to start off this session, we'll have each of the growers tell us a little bit about their farm operation, and then briefly about the current markets they're involved with, and if they're involved with farm-to-school activities, those as well. So let's see, let's have Stephanie, would you mind starting this off for us?
Stephanie, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Let me try that again. Stephanie Nesset, Bella Vista Farm, and we are in Berryton. It's about halfway in between Topeka and Lawrence. We do specialty kind of growing. We're a small operation, also pretty new. We specialize in heirloom tomatoes and peppers and other crops, and we grow sustainably and try to use organic methods wherever we can. So, and markets, let's see, right now we're just doing farmers markets and also direct from our farm.
Great, and I believe, Stephanie, you're looking to possibly get into Farm2School in the future someday, is that correct?
Yes, and actually, a couple of years ago, I had a conversation with my husband, like when we first got started, like, wouldn't it be neat if we could provide some fresh produce to schools? And did not know that Farm2School was already a thing. So glad to be here.
Love it, thank you. Let's have Bernadette, could you please talk next?
Hey, everybody. So I'm Bernadette Lunsford. Luna Farm and Ranch is the farm that I started in June of 2019 when I moved back to Northwest Kansas. I did farm before. I had a farm in Maine. And so, you know, you all were talking before the session a little bit about COVID and trying to get a farm started. You know, the first couple of years of a farm can be frustrating because a lot of money is going into the farm and not very much money comes back, you know, to pay for things. So it was already a frustrating time in farming, and then COVID made it even slower and harder to get to market. I think what really made a huge difference for me was the fact that our farmers market was able to open and operate through COVID. So I do a variety of things, vegetables, we have bees, goats, cattle, pigs, and meat rabbits, and laying hens is what we've got right now. And I think that's all I want to take on presently, because I'm marketing through word of mouth, social media, and the farmers market. And I have worked with the Food Council and different other stakeholders in the area for the Farm2School in the past in St. Francis, and seen some of those challenges. And I don't know if that's going to be a reality for me in this community or not, but we'll see moving forward. And that's one of the reasons why I was really interested in being here. We can all share what we know and the struggles and hurdles that we've each had, and maybe help each other kind of navigate those.
Absolutely. I love that, Bernadette. And this is definitely the session where I hope to hear all your guys' perspectives. So next, let's have Bill. Would you please tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Megan. My name is Bill Coe. I'm the director, CEO of Green Acres Urban Farm and Research Project. We were founded by my mother, Carol Coe, who was a political activist and community leader. We're in the inner city of Kansas City, Missouri. We featured one of the largest aquaponics operations in the city, and we also grow organically on what we call our dirt side or our greenhouse side. We are a community partner with the school district, so we are our own 501c3. We introduce our crops, our microgreens. We grow lettuces, we grow kale. About a year and a half ago, we started growing prawns in our system. We feature with science, technology, engineering, and art and math, and so we try to take all that together and teach people how to grow food within the food desert. And so no, it's really great to be here. The markets we've grown for, we are Missouri grown vendor. We've grown for the state fair for the last 3 years. 2019, we were fortunate to become Farm of the Year for Jackson County with our 4-H club for 4-H, so, but no, I love what you were sharing about the challenges of farming, Bernadette, and they're like, with that, and we've had to adjust to the challenges of COVID and food insecurity, because the food that most students would receive that was nutritional valuable was at the school. And so now we've part of an agricultural project started by my mom, and we're seeing things worse than when she first started. And so we're really concerned about the healthy nutritional diet for all people, and I think that's getting hopefully get some highlight to the farmers and the local farmers like Stephanie and Bernadette. Hopefully people are now waking up and realizing what you do is very, very important, and we can probably make some things better for some people. So nice to meet everybody.
Love it. Thank you, Bill. So I think let's kind of shift the conversation and talk about, have any of you guys tried to get involved with Farm2School, and how was that process? Or if you haven't tried yet, what are some of the barriers that you might be facing? Any of you can pop in.
Well, I know for our school system, we had a gal in the community who was on the Food Council, and she pushed very hard for the hospitals and the school to purchase from local producers. And we have local producers that have vegetables and have enough vegetables to supply the school and the hospital. But the challenges that she ran into trying to set that up were basically behavior challenges. The people that ordered the food at the schools didn't want to shift from, they just have one order that they get off of a truck. They didn't want to shift and have to supplement. That was the number one reason. It was really behavior oriented. The second reason was really to say yes to local food and what it costs. What do they have to say no to? What do they have to cut out in order to make this a reality? And whether their perceptions are real imagined it impacted, that decision. So the food council had actually purchased, because one of the complaints that they had put forward was that, well, there wouldn't be enough room to store all of the fresh produce that they would need from local producers, which I didn't really understand, because if you're bringing in a truck weekly, you have enough storage for whatever you need. But that was one of the complaints, that they probably didn't have enough food storage for perishable foods that would come from farms. So the food council had actually purchased a cooler for them for the hospital, I believe it was, and a large cooler, and it never got used, and eventually was donated to the food pantry, because the Farm2School thing just never got off the ground. So those, the perceived barriers might be a bigger hurdle than actual barriers, because I think price points could be worked on to meet what would be reasonable for the schools. And I imagine we're all of the same mindset that local food is far healthier than what's coming in the cans and the boxes on the truck, and that our kids are worth it. And it is going to cost a little bit more, but maybe we can meet a price point that doesn't make them have to give up whatever it is they think they have to give up to participate in purchasing from local producers.
Yeah, thank you, Bernadette. Bill, do you have anything to add, or Stephanie? Oh, Bill, you're on mute.
Sorry. We've had some experience working with the food and students in the agricultural department. And so back to your concerns, Bernadette, you're correct. You have to change the mindset of a kind of the food service person, and how important things are, and the culture. And so we try to do that by bringing in, we want to highlight agriculture at Green Acres. We want to highlight the possibilities of the career field, where we can have students can see themselves in major roles in agriculture and involving themselves in community, growing food and giving it away to various organizations. So we try to create those experiences around food, like an event for seniors, or an event for everybody that can come out, a plant sale, things that we're trying to get that message out several different ways. And that's one of the challenges that you said is the older way of doing business.
I think you have a really interesting perspective, Bill, on that. You have that nonprofit status, so you're kind of also focused on the educational side of things, which you don't. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Stephanie, I just wanted to see if you could throw in your experiences as sort of beginning farmer, and just, have you tried to contact schools before, or has there been anything holding you back? And it's sort of give your perspective on that side of things.
Sure. Well, and I've had about 20 years in education, both in the private sector and then in the public schools too. So I've had school lunches, and once we got to farming, I was like, wow, just giving kids access to actual tomatoes, or actual head of lettuce, or just actual food, it would be so important, and so it made my job even more fulfilling. I guess what stopped us, because I substitute taught at our local school, which is just maybe like 3 miles away. What stopped us was that, our crop is a warm weather crop, like what we specialize in. And when our stuff is ready to harvest, they're not quite in school yet. And so we've toyed around with, we could do hydroponics or something like that, but that doesn't always taste as good. It's also an extra expense for us, and we just weren't sure quite how to go about it. And
Oh, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties with
trying to just get involved in the community with markets now. Oh no.
We can hear you now. You're good.
Okay, all right. rural internet. So yeah, I mean, it's something that's on our radar. And then when I was approached by the KU students, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I would love to learn more about it. So I would say mainly, yeah, just how can our season and the school year kind of coincide without us having to switch over to like a hydroponic or aquaponic system, like to grow in the off season, more or less.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. I wanted to shift it over to Bernadette. I think you have a really interesting perspective with your policy work experience, or the council, I should say. How do you see the farm-to-school processes becoming more beneficial for both the farmers and the school? Do you see sort of any potential solutions in your mind for this sort of thing?
Man, if we could get over the mindset thing, and I hate to say, because I really like the employees. We have a small community, we have a small school, and I like the employees genuinely, and I understand their concerns. But I almost think we need a turnover and to approach a new person or have a new person in that role that's more open-minded. I guess I've been jaded over the years into thinking that, people don't change. Change comes when positions change, or, if there were incentives. We offer so many incentives across the country for farmers and for different things, monetary incentives. If we had some sort of monetary incentive for the schools to actually take a look at it, give them some sort of supplement to make it worth taking a look at. Okay, let's go ahead and just make all the desserts from local food, or let's try and have all the cherry tomatoes on the salad bar come, from locally, from this time frame, maybe a month in the fall and a month in the spring, because we do have a lot of producers with high tunnels out here that could meet that need. And yeah, maybe something as simple as that. Take a short time frame, the last month of school, the first month of school, and what is a realistic amount of food that they could ask for, that we could then go to all the producers and say, all right, collectively, could we meet this need? What are our options here for doing that, and move forward? But I think there would need to be some sort of a financial incentive, because school lunch programs are independently funded. They don't get money from anything except for people paying for the hot lunch, and some from the federal lunch assistance program. So because they're independently funded, they have to have food that students want and are willing to buy. I mean, that's really their consumer group, or the students, and they're the ones who are going to decide, are they going to buy hot lunch today? Are they going to save that money and buy a candy bar and a Gatorade after school out of the vending machine? So they're struggling with trying to attract their consumer, and yet now they have healthy food guidelines, which almost go counter to attracting that particular group of consumers that wants Cheetos and soda pop every day for lunch. So somehow giving them, I really think financial incentive, it would be a huge key in that, just because I know the school food systems are so incredibly financially strapped. That would be the first thing. And then the second thing, some sort of an assured guideline where they are not taking on something and now they're getting into a mess that they're going to have a hard time getting out of. So some sort of a trial period, or just a short, like I said, a short window where, okay, a month in the fall when school starts and a month in the spring, the kids get fresh local food, one serving of their meal or something, some component, not the whole meal or nothing overwhelming, but baby steps. I really think baby steps are going to get us someplace. And, in where I'm sitting, this has been looked at for about 10 years. I've really watched this unfold and tried to assist in any way that I can. And we've just not made any progress, which, could get a person frustrated.
Yeah, great points. I think that some of the stuff that you just talked about reminded me of the sessions earlier with some of the farm-to-school directors, and they were talking about pricing being an issue and trying their best to work with growers. So yeah, that's absolutely so many great points there. Bill, did you want to add anything to that? You're on mute again.
All right, there we go. All right, thank you guys. Well, and I understand the point that Bernadette's coming from, and with our experience, just with our experience at the high school, we have to create ways to where we can interact with the students and to get them involved. And we have to be very, very intentional. And the reason why I say that as far as our approach is because we are in a high school that has a demographic that we're working to change, is that we have a 40% dropout of high school graduation. 40% is we're losing students. And we're really trying to change the tide there. We believe food insecurity is a major issue and it's impacting education. And so these are things that our program and through science and technology, because we grow food year round, so we can keep a captive audience and an engagement. But we really, back to Bernadette's point, is we really want to show where agriculture can be a viable, sustainable operation that would coexist with the school. So you've got an extension of the community that's also that's caring and feeding and educating the students, and the students are going back to, let's say, the associations and the organizations, the non-for-profits of the world, whose mission is to deliver healthy food, particularly with kids with allergies. There's an organization out there that we grow food for. So I mean, we have to, and we, with our students are growing the food, so they take ownership of what they're growing, they're harvesting it, they're eating it, they're connected to the soil, they're connected to the land, and then they're connected to the extension of giving it away to help somebody else. So that's just an inside playbook of what we're trying to do. And so maybe that'll help. I don't know.
Thank you. I was curious about, so how do you design, is there a method to what crops you grow and what kind of produce you grow for these students and the educational programs that you offer?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. We have to adapt our growing strategy for the types of students that we have. Now, our school basically has diversity. So we've got students from all over the world. And so we try to grow food to accommodate not everybody, but just so if they see it growing, they're like, I know that's grown in my country. And so that's a fun experience to teach students. But yes, we do grow a variety of different things. We're a research project. So it's very common for me to, do some research on strawberries, which is what we have in our system right now, and trying to get strawberry production to where it could be scalable.
Great, thank you. That reminds me of what Stephanie said, how she has to think about what kind of crops to grow so that she can have something available for when schools are in session. So yeah, that's definitely something really interesting you have to think about. Bernadette, you're in a rural community, am I correct on that? I was wondering, do you have any perspectives or experiences because you're in a rural environment regarding Farm2School? Oh, there she is.
Sorry about that. I dropped the phone and I couldn't find the screen. I apologize. I am in a small rural community. That's about all I caught what you said while I was trying to fumble the phone.
Yeah. So how does being in a rural community like that, do you think, differ for an urban farmer when trying to sell Farm2School?
I think there's got to be differences, but honestly, what I'm seeing right now are the similarities in the hurdles that we have to jump. Honestly, the advantage or the difference, I guess, maybe would be that our school would need a lot less food than a school in an area that had more of a population. We have a population of about 1,200 people, and we have one classroom for each grade. That that's a small amount of food, comparatively speaking, to the bigger schools in Kansas City. So I really felt like it would be a reachable goal for us to provide a significant amount of the student lunches from local producers, because we really don't have to provide a lot of food to reach a significant goal of, say even 10% of their food comes from locally sourced, local farms. So that may be the difference that we have versus what Bill is working with.
Yeah, Bill, do you want to add anything to that, or you're nodding? I think you agree.
Yes, when we teach agriculture to students, back to Bernadette's point, we believe the relationship is very, very strong with the urban farmer and the rural farmer, and it just we have to depend upon the weather. We have to depend upon the conditions. We have to depend upon the crop. We have to do management. We have to do all those types of things that a rural farmer would do. Our experiences are a little bit different because we're getting a captive audience of students who may have never seen live fish. So when they walk into the aquaponics facility, we automatically have them like, wow. And I joke a lot with our students, and I heard somebody mention hot Cheetos. Yeah, I'm competing against hot Cheetos and dollar value meals and snack and goes. And so we try to grow food that are healthy. Snacks is what we call them, and they don't take very long to grow. So we keep that attention span, so they can come into class one week and next week their food is growing. They're excited about agriculture. But yeah, no, we're the food systems are broken, and that's what Dr. Eckert was sharing about the other seminar, and I couldn't agree with him more. And the educational systems can be improved from farm to school, and that's probably our job as growers to champion. Like Bernadette was saying, we got to champion the cause and keep going and keep going and keep going. Then COVID happens, and so we are in that struggle too with you guys. And but there's so many similarities, and we want to build that relationship too.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead, Bernadette.
I'd like to go back also to the question you had asked me about what are some other things that we could do? What do we see? I worked in Hawaii for a while and had a small farm there, and I was working with some of the private schools. And Hawaii actually has a school smoothie program where they get produce and they do smoothies for the kids in the morning, like before school. And they didn't have a breakfast program like we have here. They had a lunch program and not a breakfast program. So they had the school smoothie program, and they got everything for the school, all of the fruit for the school smoothies from local producers. So they had a program for that and a coordinator that made sure that they got all that. Honestly, that would be a start, something for, Bill made me think of it when he talked about strawberries. That's something that we could maybe start is, some sort of a smoothie program where, because strawberries grow everywhere in the state. So that could be a statewide program and something that, could get some publicity and get some people to come on board and get attention. And even these kids who like hot Cheetos and soda pop, they like strawberry smoothies too.
Right. And back to somebody's point, I don't know if I'm on mute or not, but someone made a great point that most of these kids have never had organic food. So they starting to taste a real tomato. I think Stephanie was saying that. They start to taste a real tomato or a real piece of lettuce and so that changes. And I'll line up all the salad dressing with all the students and say, I've got one rule, and it's taste it before you drown it. So they have to eat the food, and then they can go, commit death by ranch if they want. But it's it's a way that they expose and open their own worlds to, because you get the kids, I don't eat anything green. I'm like, okay, we'll start there and then we'll try to build.
So kind of to go along with that, how do we get to the adults too? Because I was at a market last night, and I started just watching how the traffic flowed, and adults bring their kids to the farmer's market, but they don't hit the produce stands. They go straight to the bakeries. And I love all my, fellow vendors and all that, but they just skip right over the lettuce. They skip right over, and right now I get it. I'm only selling plants at the moment and herbs, but straight to the bakery. And, it's not just about trying to change the kids' minds. It's trying to change all the way up the chain, for adults as well. And I thought that was so interesting that just you come to a farmer's market and you don't actually get anything that's from the farm, or if you do, it's, just sweets. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think that goes full circle to what Bernadette was saying in the very beginning with trying to change the perceptions of people.
I sell far more breakfast sandwiches and jelly than I do produce.
That's really interesting. I think I'm going to now shift the conversation a little and go back to Stephanie. As a beginning farmer, what are some of the resources that would help you to be able to sell to Farm2School, or what do you see as maybe possible ways to enter into that institutional market?
Well, and yeah, this is a complete newbie question, but is there a dedicated program to which you apply, and then that kind of opens the door for you? Or is it that farmers have to approach administrators or food directors of each individual school district? That's kind of what I was a little bit unclear about with the Farm2School program. Is it something you apply to, or is it something that just says go out and meet people and try to sell to them? So that's my first one. Like I said, back a couple of years ago, we were thinking about doing that, just going in and saying, hi, I'm your local farmer. What can we do for you? But if there's some sort of dedicated program that and maybe Farm2School is it, like, does that help us get our foot in the door? And then the other thing is that we are a relatively small producer. And right now we're kind of more of a boutique kind of thing. We have the ability to expand, certainly, but right now it's just like, yeah, we could provide some, probably some heirloom cherry tomatoes for an elementary school, but not a whole heck of a lot more. So yeah, those are my questions.
Bernadette, Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I don't know about Farm2School program, but for beginning farmers, for any farmers, really, be sure that you are working with your local NRCS office. They have a lot of grants available for like high tunnels, or to help change some things on your farm, or if you're irrigating, to move to, if you're irrigating with hose and buckets, to move to like a micro irrigation system. Make sure that in SARE tends to have a lot of good research grants. There's actually a lot of money out there, and there's some of it's earmarked for beginning farmers. So just make sure that you are going out and participating in anything that you would qualify for to get funds. I knew one gal a county over from me. I went to her farm looking around. She was, I really liked your term boutique farm. I really did, because that's kind of the genre, I guess, that I would fall into, and most of the people that I connect with farm-wise would fall into. She had a lot of different things going. She had many different aspects on her farm, but each one of them had been paid for through a grant. She had not put out much of any cash of her own to build. She had an aquaponics building. She had a high tunnel that was bigger than my barn. She had a hog operation and a worm operation. All of it had been funded through different grants. So just make sure, seeds, there are seed companies that will donate their last year's seeds that didn't sell to anything that's a good community project. So for our farmers market, we applied to get some of those seeds, and we use them at our producer meeting. We have a seed swap in the spring to get our producers involved in farmers market, come down and have lunch with us. Anything out there any resources that could be sliding by, make sure they don't slide by you. Make sure you get them to enhance your operation.
Excellent, thank you. Bill, I had a question for you. How did you get in touch with schools? And if there are farmers out there who maybe want to do something like you, any advice for them to get started on something that you do?
Oh, okay. Our partnership originated from the school that our greenhouses that we currently operate in were abandoned. And so we went into a school district that was declining in 2009. We lost 32 agriculture teachers, and that program was being realigned. And so our story starts actually from the abandonment of greenhouses and looking at the aquaponic systems that my mom saw in Colorado, and she said, we want this in Kansas City. And so that kind of generated the collaborative effort. I think I'd encourage everybody, if you want to do this, look at organizations where you can collaborate and work on, and that would help support you. Because if you're a grower, I believe that is really the pathway to education and the opportunity to really show what you can do and show the difference that your food that you're growing can make. I love farming. I am not a generational farming. I am one of these people that it just fell on me and it won't go away. So, but I think it's because of the students that have made me that way, that passionate, because I see a future of, of experiences that if we can create this pathway, I believe, with the younger generation into agriculture, whether it be in Kansas City or rural America, and start strengthening the roles of schools and farming in our community, I think we're going to see a lot of great things happening, from kids getting educations, opportunities, scholarships, transforming our food systems if we just invest in the youth and the students in our communities. And that's rural and in the city too. So I'd encourage anybody, just get started, grow something. That's what my mom told me. Just grow something, Bill. We'll work it out, And that's what we became, a boutique farmer too. I'm gonna use that word. I like that. Because we do. We don't just grow one product. We experiment with everything, and so we try to get an optimal crop. We do regenerative planting and growing because we're looking at sustainability and how easy it is to have that plant come back to you and nourishing and things like that. So we're trying different things that we want to capture that audience and empower the students to go forward to the next level, hopefully.
Wonderful, thank you. I love that you guys keep bringing up boutique farmers, because it's 90% of all U.S. farms are small, and 60% of those make less than $10,000 a year. So this is like a very common thing. And if we want to get local food into schools, we're really going to have to start coming up with these innovative ways that you guys are talking about. Great. So let's see. Bernadette, I was wondering, so have you ever been involved with Farm2School? And then why aren't you right now?
So no, I have not been able to participate in a Farm2School program, and mainly because the local school system isn't open at this point in time to doing what they need to do in order to do that. And I haven't reached any further because I thought, if I can't get the school 8 miles away, I don't want to go to the school that's 28 miles away. And quite honestly, at this point, I can sell everything that I have through word of mouth and at farmers market. Now, I would be happy to upscale and grow something specifically for the school or for the hospital, but I don't want to put myself out there, grow a bunch of produce that I'm then going to be freezing and trying to sell, through the winter. Our farmers market has an online shop, which is great, so we can sell through the winter, but you think about how much work you need to put into something. I don't necessarily want to, freeze items to sell through the winter. I'd really just soon sell them.
Yeah, I think, Stephanie, you mentioned something about that. Is there any sort of barrier that keeps you from doing season extension to try to extend that season so you can get into schools?
Well, that is something that we're looking at. I know that my husband and I are kind of looking at a grant, I think that's through the USDA, for a high tunnel. What we're kind of doing something a little new this year is we are doing bag culture, just because of a lot of factors. We are growing on former cropland, which we've found harbors all kinds of pests and fungus and all kinds of stuff that aren't compatible with tomatoes, especially heirlooms that we grow. So we are locally sourcing all of our soil components and growing in fabric bags. And so what we're trying to figure out is how do we get those in a high tunnel? And unfortunately, the USDA grant requires that you plant in the ground for at least 5 years to get that particular grant. So we're talking about it, and we're trying to figure out how we can do some season extension. We are also looking at maybe some value-added products that perhaps schools would be interested in. Yeah, we've also thought about growing lettuce and different greens in the off season when we're not doing tomatoes. I'll be honest, my husband has a full-time job, and so I'm kind of the sole full-timer at this. So and as you can probably see, I do music too. So we're just trying to transition.
Oh no.
Oh, I think we missed her.
Okay, so we're about that
Bill.
time. Oh, go ahead, Stephanie. We lost you for a hot second there.
Sorry. Oh, here we go again. Okay, am I here? Okay. But I just really like what Bill is talking about, and it the educator in me is giddy about like teaching kids about where their food comes from, and really getting that ownership experience. And that's something I would love to do, is some sort of farm school or some sort of program that helps kids see that, spinach doesn't just come out of a frozen brick, which is what I thought as a child, I fully admit. I would just love to be involved in something like that. And as far as growing, yeah, we're definitely looking at options for season extension.
Great, thank you for sharing your experiences. So we're opening it up for questions. So if you guys have a question, please put it in the chat. I had one last one for Bill, and I just wanted to kind of end our little time together with some of your successes with your program, and anything that you could talk about working with Farm2Schools that it was a success for you.
For Green Acres? Oh, okay. The students, I always say the best thing that we grow is not our food, it's the students. And to see them evolve or come in from freshman year and see them go all the way up to senior year, and just get into agriculture for the first time and see them grow and develop into student leaders, and then turning around and educating and training other students and peers, that to me, that's the reward. We are wanting to be a bigger commercial farm so that we can impact more people. I believe our model, and back to everybody else who has, if you understand farming, that's not your only job. So So hats off to you guys, and you know, but for keeping the dream alive. But we have to let students know that too, that these are just different opportunities that are available in their community, and we were excited, like you said, about feeling giddy about educating them in a different way that, quite honestly, they have never been educated in that way, as far as, you know, with science and technology and how it's applied to growing food and aquaponics. And so some of them walking away like, that's what they meant. I'm like, yes, that's what they meant. You know, now you know what, you know, pH means. Now you know what ammonia can do. Now you can, you know, relate to some of the things that you're learning in physics and chemistry to real world application. So thank you very much for letting me share. I'm very excited to be here, especially talking about food.
Yeah, I see that Allison made a comment in the chat here about making sure that farmers are paid living wages. Yes, something that is definitely so important when we're talking about farm to school, right? Shouldn't be expected to donate your time or your products. That's not going to be sustainable. Yeah, so really working to help make sure that that system is mutually beneficial. Not to put you all on the spot, but I know that there are some KU students here who did a semester-long research project on farm to school in Kansas. So if you want to speak up, go for it, or else we can move on to other things in the chat. I wanted to make room for you.
I'd be glad to speak a little bit about it. A lot of the things everybody here is talking about today kind of showed up in our research, and a lot of the people we talked to, some of you in this call, a lot of the barriers were identified time and time again. So that shows that there's a lot of work to be done, but there's a lot of work to be done together. And there's really a lot of good potential to go forward and grow this program as a community. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just say a few more things. I think a lot of the energy we saw here today was echoed in a lot of our interviews. People are generally very excited about sharing the fruits of their labor, literally, with students and teaching them about local agriculture. But there really just isn't an infrastructure in place in our state for that to be this mutually beneficial relationship. I think a lot of farmers were very frustrated that they had to go seek out these programs and they had to go the extra mile or 20 miles to deliver to these schools. And they had to do all of these things when in reality, you know, it's them doing the school district a favor. So I think that's really just the goal, is just trying to figure out how we can smooth over that school government farmer pipeline.
So this is Debbie Bearden, and I have a question for you students. Do you see a need for the school food service directors to maybe get more education, maybe experience some tours or some exposure to schools that are effectively using farm to school programs to get a vision maybe for what could be done, because our school food service director can't see it. So I'm trying to figure out how can we give them a vision for it?
Yeah, I think that would be incredibly beneficial. Of the farmers we talked to, I would say like at least half had some issue with the school district, where the farmer wanted to participate. They were interested. The school district just didn't really care, or either was like actively pushing back against it. So I think some sort of way for school directors to be able to see what a successful program looks like and that it is possible, and then maybe the benefits of that program for that particular school. I think that could be very helpful.
Yeah, I think in our research, when we were talking about just kind of the access that producers had to just knowing about farm to school, even if they hadn't heard about it, maybe sometimes we don't need to give like marketing of farm to school to the producers, because everyone in this meeting wants students and wants kids to have fresh, local, healthy food and to be aware of the food systems. Maybe it's time to tell the schools what the word is, and getting them on board and maybe having them reach out to producers. That's a great thing that could come. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
Ryan, I
will
see.
say-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I cut someone off.
Sorry. I will say that Bernadette is correct in that sometimes you do need a change in personnel. I will be taking over our food service director position in the fall, and that's the whole reason I am here. Our current food director had zero use for this program, and so that's a huge hurdle. And so I do see that, maybe just some patience, and nobody stays at a job forever. And maybe you'll get there.
Thanks, Christina. I see that we have Ryan raising his hand.
Yeah, we've been talking about this in our local food policy council quite a bit, but I was kind of hitting on I think Stephanie talked about the season of when you're growing doesn't match up very well with the season of when the school actually needs that food. And, you think back to 100, 150 years ago when people weren't shipping in, nearly as much food. We didn't have this modern all the time access to variety of fruits and vegetables year round. And it would be a fun experiment, maybe for the kids for a couple of days or a week to only have winter storage vegetables in their school lunches. But it's a hard thing to change that whole mindset, I think, to kind of realign with the natural process of what we can grow here. And that also without having lots and lots of expense from producers to put up high tunnels and season extension stuff. But just curious around that thought, do any of the producers here have, ideas for season extension into that, or how you might talk with schools about utilizing foods, especially in the wintertime, that maybe they aren't used to using, that would be in season for you, I guess.
That's a fabulous idea because I kill it at growing parsnips.
Hello. Ryan, I can answer that question as a producer. Our goal is to create an agribusiness model, and that's where students can participate on any level of the agribusiness and gain some understanding in what that entails. And so for a production standpoint, we do want to produce things that are popular and that are quickly in the ground. But like you said, in the wintertime, we feel like because we do grow year round, we have a competitive advantage. And so we're going to try to lean on that advantage with the food provider or even I like the smoothie idea. I just wish we grew fruit, but we have orchards that we're not using, at this time. So you guys have brought out some really great creative ideas. Thank you.
I see a question in the chat from Allison. Do the schools know how to use fresh produce? And I might want Megan to also chime in on this one, because I know that Megan probably has some information about this or resources with the work that you do with K-State. And if I'm wrong, then correct me.
Yeah, so we are actively trying to provide educational resources through the Beginning Farmer Wholesale Project for farmers, because there are a lot of great resources out here for beginning farmers to enter the direct-to-consumer market. But as we've talked about, it's a whole different beast than selling a wholesale. And so I think we're trying to make moves. It's still a relatively new project towards bridging farmers with wholesale buyers. And that's something that I know like Cultivate and KC Healthy Kids are actively trying to do, is connect the buyers and the farmers. But there's definitely still a lot of work that we could do. And one thing that kept popping up in my mind during this was the food hub. And I think they're trying to do something really great in that they're aggregating like small volumes of food to be able to produce large enough order for the wholesale buyers. So yeah, I think the Beginning Farmer Wholesale Project is trying to help with that. I think some people have mentioned some really great grants and funding resources throughout this that would be really helpful. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of room, I think, for improvement. And there's so many great ideas that everyone's bouncing off in these sessions that I think we should really consider turning that into something real.
Great. I see from Sherry in the chat. So would it be most likely for smaller farms to participate in Farm2School? I'm a specialist in an urban school district, so I'm trying to understand that part of the program. My push is student education about gardening, harvesting, and healthy eating. I'm dreaming up a program where students partner with local farms and grow the same items that their mentor farm is growing to make that connection. Very cool. Feel free to expand, Sherry, if you'd like.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in Texas, San Antonio, Texas. So, but I'm trying to grow, and my district is getting really big on gardening curriculums. They actually asked me to write curriculum over the summer for district wide. So I'm really excited about the push, and I've been doing this for many years. But it's just trying to teach the kids. But I like the whole. I've been partnering with my city, and they're pushing the Farm2School programs, and I'm taking it from the school perspective. But just getting that idea of what farms are mostly participating. I've heard y'all talk about boutique farms. So is it like the smaller farms that participate in these programs with the Farm2School programs? Is what I'm gathering. And so it's just getting to know those farms, and would it be likely for schools to be able to kind of get to know those farms, like a little mentor program, not really putting the farmers out of having to come and talk to the kids all the time, but just so the kids can see the farm and maybe grow and imitate what the farmers are growing, so they can see what it looks like on a larger scale and like with their little gardens. And then they can learn how to eat and prepare these foods, but also the farmers can send the foods to the school as part of a program. I know we've done it in Texas, where we've had like the healthy snacks program and working with local farmers, but a lot of times those were foods that were way too foreign for the kids. Some of the vegetables that they would send over, and so it'd be like, what is this? It had no preparation for them. So some of the foods are just like, I don't know what this is, I've never seen it in my life, and it ends up in the trash can. So there was no narrative to it, and so that kind of like missed the point. So, but I know there was a push there, but the kids do they do like some of the vegetables that were sent, of course, like carrots and actually broccoli. So, and sugar snap peas. So, but just kind of getting ideas and trying to understand like the Farm2School programs, and really liking what I'm hearing from a lot of you guys in Kansas. So.
Great. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining us from Texas. I know we have a few folks from Texas today. That's exciting. Megan shared a resource in the chat related to creating value-added products for schools. So this is something definitely to look into. And then Allison mentioned that Lawrence has gardens in most, if not all, public schools. Yeah, Lawrence is a really great model for Farm2School gardens. We're really lucky here, definitely. Trying to see that expand across the state. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say, or should we wrap up in these last couple minutes?
I'm really grateful that you guys are keeping the conversation going. It's a conversation I've had for 10 years in my community. And like I said, it's still not off the ground. Sometimes perseverance, just we keep on going and we keep on growing. And again, the students that took the time to do the research, I really appreciate you, and the producers that took the time to come on and share on the panel. I really appreciate the experience that you bring and the resources that we can all share. So, I mean,
it's great that this is still being talked about, even though there have been barriers that have been frustrating for years.
I'd like to echo those thanks. I really appreciate being here and being recognized to be a participant on the panel. Guys, I thank you so much. It's just nice to see who's all the sponsors, everybody that's on in Kansas. Wow, it's just great to be here. So thank you very much. And if there's anything we need to do for growers, just let us know. We will definitely, if you want to come up and see what we're doing, I'll do it. I do tours and things like that. So any way we can help, let us know.
Yes, thanks for having me on, and it was great to meet everybody, and what great ideas everybody's got. This is kind of helps to reinvigorate after you know, about a month of kind of tough weather and just farm challenges in general. So kind of keeps me at least focused on what this is all about. So thank you so much.
Thank you all, and thank you, Megan, for moderating. And just a reminder, we'll be sending out evaluations in the next couple of weeks, so please fill those out. That'll really help us understand how to make these events more impactful for everyone. Please don't hesitate to reach out to myself if you have any questions about funding opportunities. The Kansas Rural Center has a statewide Farm2School grant right now, so we're trying to really help producers and farmers get connected in the Farm2School network. So that is what we're here for, so please reach out. And thank you again all for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.